having been through each of these strands, I thought it wise to give you some advice on how to actually do the task, because although it might appear otherwise, it's not a monster. It is quite doable, but let me break it down so you've got some really good pointers on how to go about getting this done. Don't forget that you are simply telling the story of how you're going to solve the problem, and then you're testing your solution against a series of feasibility tests. It's as simple as that. Describe the current situation that Justin has, his paper-based system. Describe what will change or what you hope will change after you've made the app for him and he's using it. Then talk about the solution that you're designing. Tell the story of your design with a beginning, a middle and an end. Once upon a time there was a guy called Justin and he had a paper-based system, and then I came along and I designed this and this is how I did it. This really is a structured blog where you're simply showing how you resolved Justin's problem in a structured and logical way. Describe the features and benefits of your solution. We've talked before about features and benefits, and make sure that you're clear on what they are. Then let's go into the same logic and the same order in describing your solution as you're going to use for the feasibility study. So talk about the technology first of all. Talk about the hardware that you're going to use. I recommend using a table to show the advantages and disadvantages of different forms of hardware. And then when you cost them out and when you're giving your opinion later, you can say, I've chosen this one because this is more advantageous than that one because of the reasons that you've listed. Same for software, advantages, disadvantages, and talk about coding and which language you've chosen to write your software in. This would be a good chance for us to have a look at someone else's work. And if we go here to the start of, this was Unit 6, M2, and Introduction Feasibility Study, it tells us what it is. That's fine. They go straight into technical feasibility. And we start to look at the dash cams, at the costs of different 3 examples of dash cams, and then advantages of using one program above another, Python and HTML5, a bit more writing about the different languages that you can use to write it in. This was good research here from this student. We went into the economic feasibility, and again we've got tables looking at the different costs, and then we've gone into the theory pro, don't forget that as well, and about the different costs and the monthly cost. Remember I mentioned monthly costs earlier, and so on. Tables are a really good way of presenting data for this particular task. So you can see a lot of work here on the economic impacts of this particular app. We keep going. This is just showing research, isn't it? Scheduling, we saw this earlier, about how long it'll take, about what the time limit is, what's he charging per day, the coder 250 to 500 quid, which is about right, it's about what you expect to pay for a coder. I tell the students to base it on about 350 quid. But it depends how experienced your coder is. This is the Gantt chart. He's used some screenshots. No annotations there. Instead, he's gone for an explanation above and below. But once I see a Gantt chart, I'm happy, as long as it vaguely makes sense. From that, we've got operational feasibility. This section was very weak for this student, actually. This barely scraped through on the operational feasibility, but he did cover the basics, and that was the risk analysis. That wasn't his risk analysis, that was mine. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what we're looking for there. Financials. We've just seen describing all the costs, material, human, and use tables to do this. It's a really good way. Include the advantages and disadvantages. Legal implications. It's only going to be half a page on this. You're talking about GDPR, and you're talking about copyright, and you're talking about capturing identifiable data. From there, operational implications. How will it change how people work? Compare what happens now to what will happen. Compare whether it'll make their lives easier or more difficult. The answer we're looking for is easier, by the way, but make sure you back it up with examples of why. Because Justin won't have to, at the end of each lesson, negotiate a lesson with somebody. They can just book it online, so that's an immediate time saving there. The schedule, talk about that, show your Gantt chart, show how long it'll take, split the task down to subtasks using your methodology. Offer alternatives. If you don't offer an alternative, it is a fail on this task. And you've got various different options for offering alternatives in hardware, in software, in coding languages, in offering a feature or not offering a feature, and offering a feature which is more feature rich, and offering a feature which is simpler. We talked about the dash cam in that instance. Get the feasibility study done, and simply by writing your description of the project in the same format as the feasibility study, you can describe what you're going to do and then do a feasibility study. Go to the next one, describe what you're going to do on economic, do the feasibility study, schedule, and then do the feasibility study. So actually you're piggybacking one on top of the other, and that works really quite well. Don't forget your recommendations on go or no go, because you're the expert. So Justin's looking for you to say, I've weighed up option 1 versus option 2. Option 1 is my favourite and I think we should go for it because of X. That's what you need to do, and show your reasons. This is the final checklist I've got for you. Think about the purpose and scope of your design. Describe the present situation and what the future will be. Look at the problems and the requirements, which you've done as part of P2. The objectives of the new system, the description of the new system, possible alternatives, criteria for comparison, analysis of alternatives, go, no go, the feasibility study we just discussed, the Gantt chart with annotations, the risk versus likelihood assessment I showed you in the previous video, and appendices where you are going to cite your sources. That is really important. The moderator would be within his or her right to chuck your work out if you don't cite your sources. Even if very obviously you've taken a diagram from the internet, you must cite your sources. It is what is required. So that's the checklist. That's what you need to do, and all that's left for you to do now is simply complete the task.